Hi! Today I wanted to talk about something I've been thinking about lately, which is the stories that we tell ourselves. Stories are so important. Think about it. When you're a little kid, before you even know the alphabet, know anything, what is one of the first things your parents do? They tell you stories. Once I began writing my book, I realized how powerful and important our stories are. And they're not just the stories that, we read in books and things like that. It's also the stories that on a daily basis we tell ourselves. Because what happens? Something happens, we tell ourselves a story about that, and then the rest of our day and week is impacted, and sometimes our entire lives is impacted by that story that we created in the moment. And that was just our perspective, our point of view, that might not even be completely what happened. Let me give you an example. You decide to go adopt a pet, say a fish or a cat or a dog. Something happens to the fish or to the plant or whatever it is, and suddenly you have this story that you're not good about taking care of animals, that you don't know what you're doing, and you'll never be able to take care of anything, and you shouldn't have a pet. Meanwhile, what happened might have just been out of your control. You might have done everything right, and something just happened. It doesn't really mean anything about you. But once we decide something, we continue to try to prove it. Say you're at the supermarket and somebody cuts in front of you in line. What do? You automatically create a story about them. You say they're rude, they have no manners, they weren't brought up well. Now, if you actually knew their backstory, maybe they have 2 kids that are 2 years old at home and they're just trying to grab whatever it is and go. I'm not saying that's an excuse. I'm not saying that people shouldn't obey by rules just because they have their own personal things going on. My point is, we don't know the entire story. And suddenly we've taken this person who might be a good person, maybe they could be a friend, whatever it is, and we've automatically decided who they are in our stories. Are they the victim? Are they the hero? Are they a foe? We automatically put people into categories, and we also put ourselves into categories. And we will limit ourselves because of the story we've told ourselves about a certain situation. Say you're working hard, you feel like your boss doesn't even say good morning to you, you feel unappreciated, and you suddenly decide, I'm not very good at my job. Clearly they don't even notice what's going on. If we actually talk to them, maybe you would find out that their husband's really sick at home with COVID, and that's the reason why that they're not being friendly and rude and noticing you. A lot of times when it comes to other people, how they are to you really isn't anything to do with you. It's going on whatever is going on in their world. And my request is to take the time, take a moment out and talk to whoever it is. Put aside what you think about them. Put aside who you think they are in your story, and take the time to talk to them, because maybe there'll be something there that you don't know about. And the same with you as well. Don't use a one-time situation to determine right then and there who you are and what you are. What if the one time you go out and you lose your wallet, and then you blame yourself and you're like, I'm an idiot, I lost my wallet, I'm unorganized, what's wrong with me? In that moment, the more time you spend in your head, the more things that you're probably losing. So notice what happened, realize that it sucks, and then see what you can do in that moment with it. And then suddenly what happens is who you are in the story changes, it transforms. The other day when I was doing my photo shoot, one of my earrings broke, and the person who was supposed to do my makeup totally disappeared. Now, I could make that into a whole story about how people are not reliable and they're shady, and, people aren't professional anymore, and of course this would happen to me, I'm cursed. Or I could say, you know what? I noticed it is what it is, it sucks, let me move on and see what I can actually do in this moment. Instead of feeding my story and trying to find different things to prove my story and prove there's something wrong with them and maybe I'm not meant to do this photo shoot, whatever else, I immediately got into action. I asked a few friends for somebody. Problem was solved. Found somebody else to do my makeup. My earring broke. I took it out. It's not a big deal. It didn't mean anything about me because my earring broke, right? Or because someone, wasn't able to follow through on their commitment to do my makeup. But the more that we actually make that into a story, the next time something similar happens, automatically it's, I knew this person wasn't going to be reliable. I told you this person was reliable. And they may not have even done anything yet. And of course that comes into relationships as well. Once we've created our story that, men are evil, not dependable, or women are flaky and just using us for our money, everybody we run into, we try to fit into those stories. So the biggest power, and it takes practice, is to take time to see what stories you're telling yourself. As you go out your day, see what stories you're telling yourself about things that happen. Notice things that happen. You get a flat tire, you get called into work at the last minute, your kids wake you up in the middle of the night crying, and see what story you make out of it. Because we actually want to entertain ourselves. So we create these stories so we can entertain ourselves, we can tell our friends, and those stories might feel good in the moment that you've created a whole story about someone or something, but in the end, it's not really a powerful way to live, because you're not really making that story out of fact. You're making that story out of opinion or your perspective or how you want it to be, instead of really looking at what is really happening here. The other day, one of the machines broke at work, and immediately I went into I don't want to call all these people. This always happens to me. Why do I have to go tell people that they can't come in for their appointment? And that took time out of me calling them, contacting them. Within 1 hour, I contacted every single person. Most of them were really nice about it, and I was able to move on with my day and not bring that story into the rest of my day. So notice the stories that you're creating and see how you're actually bringing them into your day. Because the more that you make a story and a commentary and an analyst, and you decide what this means about you and about the other people, the less you're actually really experiencing life, because you're just trying to find some way to prove yourself right. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and then immediately you create a whole story and you're mad about the traffic and things like that, instead of just noticing it and moving on. The more we actually make those little things into things that affect our entire day or our entire week, the less we actually are getting what we want. So stop the stories. Stop catching yourself in oh, I knew this was going to happen, or of course it's going to happen, or it always happens to me, or it means X because I did Y. It doesn't mean anything. Because you wake up and it's a rainy day, it doesn't mean anything about you and that you should have planned better and you should have brought an umbrella. Fine, notice those things, and the next time do them. But the once you realize you're actually creating a story, when you actually are telling it to somebody else, that becomes a story. When I go to tell my mom, I go to tell my friends, then it's taken on a life of its own. Really, very little in your day should you have to tell other people about, because none of it, for the most part, is that big that it has to be retold. Because when you retell it, you're fueling it. You're giving it more energy. I remember when I would sit there and I vent to people about work, and my work was still the same. Nothing changed. My experience didn't change, didn't get any better, but I felt better venting to somebody. And that's fine if you're going to do that, but then after, be thank you for letting me vent. Let me look and see what I actually can do right now. But if you just go vent to vent, and you are just doing it just to continue and share someone else with your annoyance, they're going to listen, but nothing's going to move. And in the end, the only thing that really moves our lives is taking some kind of action, which means not repeating and getting caught in the stories, and noticing when you're about to tell a story. If you bang your foot, what thought comes through your head? Is it, why am I so clumsy? Is it, why did I put this table there? Is it, why did my partner decide to leave these socks and shoes out so I could stumble over them? Or is it, I hurt my foot, that sucks. Next time I will make sure to go a different route, or I'll make sure, let me go push this table to the wall a little bit so it doesn't happen again. Or are you sitting there just blaming and making a whole thing out of bumping your foot? So really look in your life and see where you're telling a story. And tell me, what stories are you telling yourself? And what is the alternate story you could be telling? That is what I would like to hear about this week. I would love if anybody would like to comment. And I hope you have a rest of the first week of December, whatever we're in, second week of December. Well, the rest of your day. Enjoy.